I'm not an atheist. This is obviously a more complex video than my earlier videos. I won't go fully in depth into all the separate complex issues to avoid making this a 5-hour video, but I'll still try to keep it as short as possible while giving strong evidence for my theist position. To clarify my position before I dive in, I am an Eastern Orthodox Christian. Now let's get into this. 1. The reality of Luciferianism in high places. The presence of Luciferian organized evil is an undeniable reality of organized spiritual evil operating in positions of great power and influence. The Bible does not present Satan as a cartoonish figure with horns, but as a real, intelligent, fallen angel who now works to deceive the nations. Isaiah 14:12-15, Ezekiel 28:12-17. Scripture repeatedly warns us that we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, powers, rulers of the darkness of this world, and spiritual wickedness in high places. Ephesians 6:12. These are not metaphors. They describe real spiritual forces that seek to rule through human systems. Have proof of Baal/Moloch worship, Hillary talking about sacrificing a chicken to Moloch, Jeff Stein's bank account being called Baal, the child sacrifice, the owl imagery, like at Bohemian Grove, the Semitic pagan imagery and symbols everywhere. It's literally everywhere. Baal and Moloch are not some random pagan gods. They are the ancient gods of child sacrifice, Canaanite in origin, and closely related to Babylon. Epstein himself had his own temple, painted in the colors of a specific country, on top of the island, with an owl statue on top. While there is no definitive proof, the shape of the temple resembles religious temples of the past. Now, you can just dismiss this as a stupid conspiracy theory, but when we have the files confirming a relation to Baal/Moloch and occult rituals involving underground temples, we have proof of occult Moloch worship by the elites. The Bohemian Grove owl statue, where they burn an effigy of a child, and Moloch symbolism everywhere you look. These things have been regarded as conspiracies for years. Pizzagate was a right-wing conspiracy for 10 years, but now many people and I have been vindicated. People have been obedient like sheep to whatever the media and celebrities push down their throats. If you feel the need to obey whatever the media tells you, then you need to start thinking critically. In the files, we see in Epstein's Zorro Ranch an Orthodox Byzantine cross hung up with a redacted thing, most likely something degenerate to mock Jesus. Desecrating icons is common for Satanists and the like. And I ask, why mock Jesus? Why not any other god? In one email, when talking about Putin, a dichotomy is also given. Either Putin leans towards Europe and gives into degeneracy, or becomes more politically conservative and leans towards orthodoxy to alienate himself from the rest of degenerate Europe. This clearly shows that they regarded orthodoxy as the antithesis to their push of degeneracy. In recent years, the Epstein files have laid bare something deeply disturbing: a network of extreme wealth, political power, intelligence agencies, and celebrity that was systematically involved in the sexual trafficking, abuse, and ritualistic exploitation of children. Court documents, flight logs, and victim testimonies reveal a level of depravity that cannot be explained by mere greed or lust. It points to something darker, a pattern of ritual abuse, occult symbolism, and the deliberate inversion of innocence. In the 1933 play Romance of the Nations, you can see the, let's call them juice boxes, doing a mock sacrifice towards Baal with the effigy of a child. This is the reality we live in today. For this reason, Jesus said to them, Your father is the devil, and you do your father's will. He called them the synagogue of Satan, and to this day, certain people testify to this fact. Testify to the fact that the synagogue of Satan has lived till this day. And if they are his synagogue, then it's pretty blatant who is in charge of this synagogue, the first deceiver. This connects directly to the ancient worship of Baal and Moloch, Canaanite deities, to whom children were sacrificed by fire, Leviticus 18:21, Jeremiah 32:35, 2 Kings 23:10. God called these practices abominations because they were direct acts of worship to demonic entities. Time and time again, God warned the Israelites not to sacrifice their children to these gods. The spirit behind Baal and Moloch has never disappeared. It has simply taken new forms. Institutionalized child sacrifice through abortion, elite pedophile networks, and ritualistic abuse hidden behind wealth and power. The same demonic hunger for innocent blood that demanded children be passed through the fire to Moloch is still active today. Only now it is cloaked in secrecy, legal protection, and cultural silence. Hundreds of thousands of children go missing every year, so I ask, where are they going? We also see the influence of Luciferian occult brotherhoods, groups that openly or secretly venerate Lucifer as the bringer of enlightenment, knowledge, and power. Many of these societies operate through exclusive clubs, secret societies, and initiatory orders that promise hidden wisdom to the powerful. Their symbols, the all-seeing eye, the inverted pentagram, the owl of Minerva, associated with Moloch rituals, the double-headed phoenix, among other things, appear repeatedly in architecture, corporate logos, entertainment, and government buildings. The Bible warns that Satan himself transforms into an angel of light, 2 Corinthians 11:14, and his followers often present their rebellion as enlightenment, progress, or liberation from religious tyranny. Ephesians 6:2. For we do not wrestle against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. From the beginning, the enemy was the power in high places, from the dawn of history to now. None of this surprises me, for Paul wrote that the God of this world has blinded the minds of the unbelieving, 2 Corinthians 4:4. And Jesus himself called Satan the God and ruler of this world. If Satan is the God of this world, then it only makes sense that his synagogue has the highest power in this world. The existence of such organized darkness at the highest levels of society is not evidence against God. It is evidence of good, for how can evil exist without good? How do you know a crooked line is crooked? Only by comparing it with the straight line. If there is no true good, then there is no true evil. 2. The impossibility of ethics and metaphysics. Atheism claims there is no God, yet when pressed, it cannot give a coherent account of anything. Without God, ethics and metaphysics both collapse under their own weight. Here, I will collapse a very simplified version of the transcendental argument, or TAG for short. The fullness of this argument would take a whole video itself, so this will be a version for dummies. The basic syllogism of TAG is this: Y requires X. If Y is the case, then X is the case. Y would be any transcendental category. These categories can be hard to grasp at first, so I will use two simple ones: ethics and truth. Let us sub in ethics for Y, the easiest to understand. It would be helpful to watch my previous video about logic to understand what I'm about to talk about, which is epistemology and the three laws of logic. Now let's proceed. Ethics require X. If Y is the case, then X is the case. What is your X? Essentially, either you hold to subjective or objective ethics. If you hold to objective ethics, meaning murder is truly bad, for example, then you need to give a coherent X to justify that. If you hold to subjective ethics, meaning murder being bad is just your personal preference, then you don't have to give a coherent X. But if it becomes subjective, then all morals boil down to your own personal preference. And every other preference, for example, someone thinking murder is good, all preferences become equal. Neither right nor wrong, they just are. The same atheist who says morality is a construct will still feel righteous outrage at child abuse, genocide, or betrayal. They will say, that is evil, with the same moral certainty a Christian uses, yet they have no foundation for it. Their words contradict reality. If humans are just rearranged stardust with no soul, no divine image, just matter in motion, a flesh robot with no free will, then why should one arrangement of atoms have more value than another? Why is diddling a child objectively worse than stepping on an ant? Why is damaging one pile of atoms worse than damaging a different pile of atoms? Atheism has no answer that does not reduce to because I feel it, or because society says so. And these are both fallacies. Because society is a mass appeal. Why does the number of people who believe something determine what's true? And if your answer is your own preference, why do your feelings map onto what is true? Why is your opinion as worthless as atoms matter more than the preference of another pile of worthless atoms? Both are shifting sand. Scripture warns that when men suppress the truth about God, their thinking becomes futile, and their foolish hearts are darkened. Romans 1:21. They call evil good and good evil. Isaiah 5:20. Without the fear of the Lord, which is the beginning of wisdom, Proverbs 9:10, morality becomes a mirror reflecting only human whim. And history shows how quickly that mirror cracks when power changes hands. Not only is an appeal to mass a fallacy, but then you would have to say that when people saw slavery as normal, slavery was right at the time, and the people who went against slavery were in the wrong for being anti-slavery. What makes you different from a rock? A nervous system? If morals are confined to a nervous system, to our brain, then morals become physical things confined in a subjective being, once again becoming subjective. The only way to maintain coherence between your words and reality is to say ethics are objective, that no matter what anyone says, diddling a kid is wrong. Now, the issue arises. Why? An objective ethical claim requires an objective standard. It requires that an objective good exists. It requires that an immaterial, objective, unchanging, and eternal truth exists in an apparent only material, subjective, ever-evolving world. A complete impossibility. And this is only one transcendental category. If you switch in why for, let's say, truth, the problem becomes even worse. Once again, whether truth is objective or not, let's go down the subjective route first. If truth is subjective, then the laws of logic fail and the ability to reason collapses. It collapses into absurdity, a reductio ad absurdum. The sun is hot, winter is cold. The opposite of being alive is dead. These are true statements. If truth is subjective, these are no longer true. It's difficult to comprehend. But if truth is subjective, then nothing can exist. Everything that exists is in a state of true or false. The sun, for example, it is hot, it is not cold, it is bright, etc. You get the point? Everything that exists has characteristics which are true and false. But these require objective truth to exist, something people generally don't think about. But a world without truth is incomprehensible. It's difficult to even comprehend, because even the process of thinking requires true and false. To deny truth is to deny reality and fall into system collapse. But if it is objective, then once again you need an unchanging, eternal, objective, and immaterial standard. However, as an atheist, all you can do is three things. First, a mass appeal, which, like I explained, is fallacious and doesn't work. Second, your own personal preference, which once again doesn't tell us what is true. And third, an appeal to evolution, which not only is an appeal to nature, which is once again a fallacy, But if it was evolution, it would still be subjective, because it would be contained within the human brain/nervous system. No matter what the atheist does, they cannot justify objective transcendentals. And a worldview without objective transcendentals is neither coherent nor a possible world. Therefore, I say this: if the sun being hot is true, then universal truth exists. If universal truth exists, then the objective standard must exist. Let's even flip it. Let's say the sun being hot isn't true. Truth still exists. Something being wrong means the opposite is right. If anything is false or true, then truth exists. There is no way to get around it. Atheism must explain existence itself without a necessary, self-existent cause. Everything that begins to exist has a cause. The universe began to exist. The overwhelming scientific consensus from the Big Bang and cosmic microwave background. Therefore, the universe has a cause outside itself, timeless, spaceless, immaterial, immensely powerful. That description fits only one candidate: God. Atheists often retreat to the universe caused itself, if, or it came from nothing, or there are infinite multiverses. Each option is philosophically incoherent. Nothing comes from nothing. Ex nihilo nihil fit. Self-causation is logically impossible. A thing cannot exist before it exists to cause itself. An infinite regress of causes never explains why anything exists at all. The only rational stopping point is a necessary, uncaused, first cause, eternal, personal, intelligent, and good. That is the God of the Bible, not an impersonal force or quantum fluctuation. Infinite multiverses are unfalsifiable and have no actual evidence for it. This isn't Marvel, bro. The universe causing itself is illogical. How can something not yet existing cause itself to exist? It doesn't exist. Coming from nothing, which is the truth, becomes illogical when you remove the cause. We live in a cause and effect universe. Why don't you expect a giraffe to randomly appear out of nowhere? Because effects only come from a cause. Everything exploded itself out of nothing. Sounds cool on paper, until you break it down and realize it's literally impossible. When atheists appeal to chance or brute fact, the universe just is. They are committing the same intellectual sin they accuse believers of: blind faith. They believe in miracles without a miracle worker. They believe consciousness arose from unconscious matter, love from mindless particles, reason from irrational processes, all without evidence, only because the alternative, a personal creator, is unacceptable. Both Christians and atheists believe in miracles. Atheists just believe in miracles without a cause, miracles from the unmiraculous. If one can say the universe just is, which is circular, then the theist can simply say, God just is. I am not an atheist because the alternative is unlivable and incoherent. A world without God has no binding moral law, no ultimate explanation for existence, and no anchor for the human heart. Only in Christ do we find the true foundation. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. John 1:1-3. He upholds the universe by the word of his power. Hebrews 1:3. He gives meaning to morality because he is the standard of goodness. He gives hope beyond the grave because he conquered death. Without him, everything unravels. With him, everything holds together. That is why I cannot be an atheist. It is impossible to be honest and deny he who is. Psalm 19:1. The heavens declare the glory of God. The skies proclaim the work of his hands. Psalm 8:3-4. When I consider your heavens, the work of your fingers, the moon and the stars, which you have set in place, what is mankind that you are mindful of them? Human beings that you care for them? 3. The impossibility of evolution. Now, I know many people will cite evolution and the Soyans as a reason to debunk Christianity, and I'll upload a future video hammering it in, but in this short segment, I hope to show you why evolution is logically impossible. A lot of evolutionists seem to forget that evolution only deals with what happens when life is already there, so I ask you, how did life start? I've heard that it came from a different planet or from space. To those people, I would say to actually listen to the question, when did life start? Not when did life come to Earth? Seeing as we live in a cause and effect universe, life must have a cause. It would be violating the law of cause and effect. We don't expect life to pop out of nowhere today. So why do we expect life to come out of nowhere billions of years ago? Now let's get on to evolution itself. At its base is slow progress through random mutations with a proclivity towards survival/life. But even so, statistically, there would be more negative mutations than positive mutations. However, the main issue with evolution is that slow progress over millions of years is impossible. Let's take male and female, for example. Male and female could not both evolve for each other simultaneously. Since the mutations are ultimately random, the rate of evolution would not be the same. Therefore, there would be a point in time when there was only male or only female. Evolutionarily, we should see a period where only one. Sex had properly evolved, not even accounting that the genitals of that sex would take millions of years to form. So there would be millions of years where, let's say, only males existed with undeveloped genitals. How did they reproduce? Perhaps genetic cloning, like some other tiny species? Okay, even though that would be literally impossible, why did females then evolve into being? In this evolutionary world where females hadn't evolved yet to being, how did they evolve? How did males become females over millions of years? Let's do something. Let us take the eye. For this, we'll have to explore the concept of irreducible complexity, which holds that a certain thing is so utterly complex that every part of it must exist for it to function at all. This goes against evolution, since evolution needs to move towards something from nothing. If one part of the eye hasn't developed, the eye would not be remotely close to functioning as an eye. There would be movement towards creating an eye. There would have to be a goal. Let's say full eye development is 10. Before 10 has no functions or similarity to an eye. Evolution would be going from 1 to 2 to 3, etc. Moving towards 10 with mutation. The problem is the eye requires 10 from the jump. It is impossible to develop to 10. For the numbers before 10 to encourage evolution to progress, the numbers need to have some function or relation to an eye. If there isn't something like that, then there would be no progress towards 10. Essentially, the eye is simply too complex to be a product of evolution. Every part of the eye needs to already exist and be in place for the eye to do anything at all. It's like the paradox of the cell and protein. Proteins are made from cell membranes and enzymes, and thus require them to exist. So the cell membranes and enzymes would have to evolve first, right? The problem is that cell membranes and enzymes also need proteins to emerge, and thus already need proteins to exist to evolve. Thus, with evolution, proteins and cell membranes/enzymes could not come to be because they require each other. Yet evolution would posit millions of years where only one of these things existed. Yet that is literally impossible. These are only two things. The entire human body is like this, and so is the entire world. Our entire body is a system of systems, from each unique cell to organs to blood and bones. Evolution is mathematically impossible, and it cannot explain the variety of species and large jumps in development between species and a complete lack of any missing link from beast to man. All missing links have been proven to be false. Usually they take some bones that look alike, which then get proven to just be like an orangutan, mixed with a human skeleton or something goofy like that. We have never observed new information being printed in DNA. DNA is incredibly complex information with more info than an entire library. The only way to reconcile that fact with evolution is to say that species can print new information that did not previously exist in their DNA. We have never seen that happen, let alone if survival of the fittest was true, then ethics would be based on that. Murder, rape, slavery would all be an expression of the fittest surviving by crushing those who are unfit. A perfectly moral system under evolution. I will make a proper video on this later. This video is already pretty long, so I won't go any further on evolution today. 4. The impossibility of order and creation. I'll try to make this part short. It can get pretty complex, so as with everything else, and leave the complexities for a future video. People seem to overlook the fact that we live in an ordered universe. Think about it real quick. Adopt the atheist world as a pure material world, where the universe randomly came into existence with no order, pure randomness. No creator and no being to create or maintain order. How does the law of gravity exist? How do the universal constants exist? How does order exist? These laws, known as universal constants, are immaterial laws that cannot be observed, yet keep our universe existing. If they did not exist, or if they even changed by the 1%, by 0.1%, by even the smallest measurement, our universe would never exist and would have never come to be. This would be contradictory to a random world operating off random change and mutation. Our world is perfectly ordered for our existence, from universal fine-tuning general to the entirety of existence, to local fine-tuning specific to our Earth and solar system. We live in a world with order and immaterial universal laws. Let atheists make a claim to a material, unordered world. This is a blatant contradiction from belief to reality. The atheist world is the material world, where everything is reduced to matter and motion. So how do we account for orderly, immaterial laws? Now that's it for part 1. The next part will be on the crucifixion, resurrection, and prophecies. See you next time.